Hello, hello, and welcome to the Amplify Your Authority podcast. I'm Marisa Shadrick, your host, and I have a special podcast episode today for you. I'm actually going to take you behind the scenes to a live training that I did last week inside my private membership. Now, my private membership has gone through evolution, so to speak. It's always been about marketing, but with the rise of AI, the direction has changed and it's going to be very different in 2025. But this particular session that I did had to do with webinars, and I thought it would be very appropriate for you to get a glimpse inside of the membership. Now, what's different next year is that I am incorporating AI marketing. So, this private membership combines the power of custom AI tools with expert marketing. So, you can finally build an email list and turn those prospects into clients simply by nurturing them. And when they're ready, they'll raise their hand and they'll buy. It's much easier to sell to a warm list than try to do a sale through some Facebook ads or try to do cold outreach or just post and hope that somebody will buy something when they don't even know who you are. So I thought the content would be really helpful because it gives you some insights on webinar. There's also a download that I'm going to offer, and you'll get a sample of the type of training that I do inside the membership. But in 2025, here just a month and a half from now, there's going to be the integration of AI, and it's going to be pretty awesome. I've created a number of custom GPTs. There's also a community hub that includes productivity GPTs. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I am a Michael Hyatt full focus certified coach. And so a lot of the strategies I use, like the smarter framework, is what I built into the chat GPT so that people can create those goals, because it's really important to have goals so you can execute. So I'm excited for you to take a sneak peek. I'll be telling you more about the membership here soon, and I'll put a link in if you'd like to check out the information and see all the goodness that's going to be included. But with no further ado, here is the replay to last week's coaching session on webinars. Hello, hello, and welcome to the List Building with AI Membership Elective. Today, we're going to talk all about webinars. I'm Marisa Shadrick, your online marketing consultant and certified copywriter. And webinars are a great lead generation tool. There are some things you need to know. And so we're going to cover a lot of material in a half an hour, but no worries. There will be a replay, so you can always go back and check out the replay and take notes. All of this is a process. So don't expect to just, execute all of these lead generation strategies at once. Pick the one that best fits for you. And I'm always available if you have questions. Now, before I start, you might have noticed some changes on the platform, color changes. I'm color coding things, I'm moving things around. The platform for the membership is getting a makeover. It is going to be better, stronger, and it is going to be more user-friendly in the way it's been organized. We're going to still be doing the coaching calls live. And I've added a few things on productivity. All of this is going to launch January 15th. And I don't want to take up too much time talking about it, but I just want to let you know that you will be seeing a video in December introducing the new platform. All of our paying customers, everyone that has joined the membership, this is going to be part of what you're going to experience. So if it doesn't align anymore, if you're not into list building and using AI and transitioning into this AI marketing, I totally understand. But I will explain all of that in the video for those of you that it is a good fit for you. Whatever price you entered the membership, you are grandfathered in, my friend. You're not going to pay a penny more. So congratulations for that. So let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about mastering webinars. I'm going to grab my notes because I always have tons of notes. Mastering webinars for list building and connection. So where do we begin when we're thinking about webinars? It's always good to reverse engineer. I know you've heard me say that before. You start with your offer. What are you offering? Now, hopefully you've gone through all the homework of figuring out what your audience wants, what their needs are, their struggles, their challenges, and you've created an amazing offer that you're ready to present to them. And webinars, it's a great way to be able to talk with a live audience and explain your premise, explain who you are, give case studies, be able to interact, the chat. It's got a lot of advantages, but you want to start with the product. So why do I say that? Because if you start with the product, you probably have already the content for the webinar within the product, whatever that is. And so what you want to do is take a slice of that, just a slice, and build it out and create maybe 3 takeaways for the audience to learn something, to get a quick win, and be able to introduce the offer that's going to make it faster, easier, or maybe they'll be able to execute with support, whatever that might be. So you reverse engineer and you start with the product, and then you figure out, what do I already have in my offer that could be a slice I can take out and build out the webinar? So that's the best way to go. So why do I say that? Because when you're presenting, it will be easier for you to, hang on, I got to let somebody in. I don't want to omit anybody. Okay, let me let something in here. So, okay, back to the presentation. Why do I say that? Because when you're presenting the webinar, by the time you're ready to introduce the offer, it's going to be seamless. It's going to make total sense for you to be able to make that offer. If your webinar is disconnected and not really connected to the offer, it's going to make it really super hard. So let me go back here and find my notes because I lost my notes. Okay, there we go. So that's why we want to do that. We want it to be seamless transition from the webinar training into the offer. So it makes total sense. So think of the webinar as an introduction that has an outcome, has to have an outcome. So when they go to the webinar, they're going to say, this is what I'm going to walk away with, or this is what I'm going to learn, or this is going to be my takeaway. This is going to be what's going to help me reach that milestone. There's got to be an outcome. And so you want to start building the webinar, introducing your offer by means of a slice that you're going to teach. And there's going to be an outcome, and it's going to lead to the product seamlessly. What you can explain or teach would give your audience that dopamine hit, that quick win, and leave them with wanting more, whether it's support, step by step, a course, coaching, whatever it might be that you're offering. And it will lead them to wanting more and raising their hand to your offer. For example, when you're giving a webinar training and say it's about productivity, some people say, well, if I give them value and if I give them teaching that is going to help them kind of go on their merry way, they're not going to need me. Well, if I'm doing a webinar on productivity, I could explain how to be more productive. But let me tell you, it's really hard to execute on your own. Sometimes we'll put it on the back burner. We won't get it done. We need accountability. And so even though you know how to do it, for example, in productivity, you can explain how to be productive, how to set goals, how to execute on those goals, how to create habits. But will they do it? Right? It's the same thing losing weight. You can explain how you're going to lose weight, reduce the intake of calories, increase your activity, but can they do it on their own? So you can give value and still have an offer at the end that helps them actually execute on that particular topic so that they can reach the outcomes that they want. So whatever you choose to teach during the webinar, it should be a slice of the big picture. We don't want to overwhelm. It's not a commercial where you just give case study after case study and give examples to why and use all this, try to intimidate, saying, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. The sky's going to fall. No, it's not a commercial. It's not a high pitch. It's something that's going to give them value, give them that dopamine hit, but you're not going to give them an entire system either, because I've done that. I've done that mistake. Others have done that mistake. And we have learned that less is more. We want to keep it really simple so they can follow along. And this is what you want to think. Now, this is what my husband told me years ago, and he was so right. Don't tell him I said that, but he was so right. He has a lot of sales calls where he has to do face-to-face and literally in an office, in a conference room with CEOs. And he always says, you got to consider some things that are really simple. This is the human connection. What do you want them to think about or consider? This is what you're going to be thinking about when you're thinking about your webinar. What do you want them to think about or consider? Because maybe they're not considering it. They're not thinking about it yet. What do you want them to feel? Like a nonprofit could really focus on that. What do you want them to feel? Empathy. Maybe they're trying to raise money for a nonprofit. So they want their audience to have empathy for their cause, right? What do you want them to feel, right? Maybe it's the feeling of finally having peace and finding a solution. What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to believe? Now, belief is really important too. What do you want them to believe? You want them to believe it's possible? Do you want them to believe that they can do it? Do you want them to believe that this is different for these reasons? What do you want them to believe? And so, oftentimes, for belief, what I do is I look at possible objections and I flip them. So I think of what is an objection, maybe a limiting belief that's causing that objection, and how can I incorporate a little bit of that in my webinar to help them believe that this is possible or overcome that objection. So belief is important. And then finally, what do you want them to do? And that's usually the call to action at the end of the webinar. This is really, really fundamental, and it's so effective in so many ways. What do you want them to think about? What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to believe? And what do you want them to do? Really, really helpful to answer some key questions that will help you create a great webinar. So let's move on to the pros and cons of webinars. Here are the pros. Okay, you're going to build real-time connections because it's live, and typically webinars are free. So people will sign up, and if they sign up, it's going to grow your email list, which is like, woohoo, that's what we're trying to do, right? And it's going to establish trust because they're going to hear from you, and it's going to position you as an authority, as an expert, right? It is an effective lead generation tool. So whether they show up live or not, you've got their email list and you can do follow up with emails. It's very interactive. So this provides some great market insights about your market because it's interactive. And we're going to talk a little bit about engagement and how you can do that. But this is an opportunity to find out what they have to say. And in webinars, there's different tools, but in most webinars, there's a chat feature and people are asking questions and you want to encourage questions. And you find out based on those questions where they're at in a process. So it's very, very helpful for that. And you also have the ability to repurpose the webinar. You can take sections of it and maybe write a blog post, or maybe you can create social media content from that content, or you can put it in an automated webinar and create an ongoing evergreen lead magnet later. So there's a lot of pros to it. Now here's the cons. Got to look at the good and the bad, right? The cons is that it requires dedicated time and energy for the planning, for the creating, for the promoting, and for the follow-up. There's a lot. And that's why, you don't want to just try to slap something together and I want to have a webinar in like 3 weeks. You need more time to promote. So you need to give yourself ample time. So when live, this is another challenge with webinars. Since they are live and you're using technology, you never know when technology is going to kick you in the butt, frankly. So you've got to be understanding, you got to be ready for the unexpected and just flow with it, right? Just don't worry about, internet interruptions or getting pixelated. Just know that if it happens to you, it's happened to everyone. It's happened to me. It just happens. I did a webinar one time. I forgot to hit record. Oh, that just made me think, did I hit record here? It's recording. I just had the thought that I'm not recording, but I did this on a webinar and I forgot to hit record. So I had no replay. Pretty bad, right? So I had to recreate the webinar and record it on my own, which was like, yeah, that's what I did. So just know this stuff happens and it happens to everyone, but just go with it. Just go with it. Planning takes away a lot of anxiety and planning takes away a lot of mistakes. There are some things, variables that you can't control, but control what you can and just flow with what you can. So the other challenge with webinars is that people don't always attend live. Yeah, they don't attend live. So you can do some things to try to incentivize and gamify the webinar so they attend live. And we'll talk about some of those things. But that is kind of the downfall, that webinars aren't as highly attended as it used to be. People will say, well, I'll just watch the replay because I got too much stuff on my plate. And then they never watch the replay. They forget about it. So that can be a challenge as well. And then keeping them engaged throughout the webinar so they don't jump in and jump out, right? So that could be a challenge as well. But overall, webinars, I've sold a lot of products and high ticket products through webinars. And so they don't have to be overly attended to convert. And I did a partnership one time with a colleague of mine, and it was to help him be able to get more clients because he was a web designer, and he was able to get some clients. And we only had, I think, like 5 people attend. And I think he got 2 or 3 clients from it. So it's not in the number, it's really being targeted with the right people being there. So even if you have 5 people or 10 people attend live, just go with it and be excited about that. And because those people are probably very, very much aligned with what you offer. So let's move on to webinar essentials. Now, I'm going to copy and paste some of this for you because you're not going to be able to take notes of all this stuff, because I'm going to go through all of this with you, kind of an overview of some of the things to consider that you will need. So you want to start early, because oftentimes we don't realize how many pieces there are to creating a webinar. And then we get overwhelmed, and then we're 2 weeks ahead and we haven't created emails, and we're like going crazy. So give yourself enough time. That's why I work in quarters. So plan, maybe first quarter of next year will be when you do a webinar. And so you would start planning in January for a webinar that you're going to promote in March. Give yourself 2 months to create all the assets that you're going to need. So you have to promote early, and that is going to really help you. And you're going to stay calm. You're going to be in your calm zone, and you're not going to feel overwhelmed, and you're going to feel really confident when you go live because you've taken care of everything. So that's one of the essentials, is to start early and give yourself 3 months to plan all this, and at least 4 weeks to promote it. Yep. That's what I said, at least 4 weeks to promote it. So regardless of how you're going to promote it, make sure when you go in promotion mode, 3 weeks can work too, but ideally, if you can give it 4 weeks, that would be great. And then leverage your best marketing tool. So when I mean marketing tool, so whatever it is that you do online to promote your brand, maybe you're a YouTuber and you create videos, maybe you're a podcaster, maybe you write newsletters, maybe you have a real super great newsletter and people are signing up for the newsletter and you've got an email list already. What is it that you do on a week to week that is your best marketing tool, where you get engagement, or people, maybe it's a lead magnet, people are signing up to a specific lead magnet, and leverage that one. You could do other things, of course, but leverage the one that's working for you and think of ways that you can kind of put a little fire under that, and that would help you as well. So you want to leverage your best marketing tool, whatever that is, if it's social media, podcast, newsletter, or lead magnet. If you have, now this is kind of a little bonus tip for you under the webinar essentials. If you have a lead magnet that is converting really well and people are signing up monthly or week by week, here's what you can do. On the thank you page for that lead magnet, create a video invitation to your webinar. So if they're already signing up to something that you have, just announce it on the thank you page. Hey, I'm so glad you decided to download this resource. I just want to let you know that I'm going to have a masterclass coming up here in a few weeks on January 15th, and I would love to see you there. We're going to cover all kinds of great content and give them the outcome of what it is, and you'll be able to walk away with, what are they going to walk away with, right? You can even incentivize by saying, and when you register, you're also going to get, something, whatever that something is. And we're going to talk about some things here in just a second. So you can do that and just remember to change it once the webinar is done. But that way you don't have to change anything else. It's just create a video with a link and keep any other copy, keep my email on your safe list, or, connect with me on social, whatever you have on your thank you page, you can leave it there. but just change the top part. And then when the webinar is over, swap it out and put a picture or whatever you had before on there. So that's a good way to leverage what you have already. So what I do too is when I'm going to have a webinar, I change the commercial on my podcast and I do that as well. So there's different ways that you can promote as well, but use and leverage whatever marketing tool is working for you. So here's a quick checklist for essentials. These are not things that you have to have, just some ideas to help you plan strategically and be able to have a week by week of what your tasks are going to be based on what you decide to use. So let me go through these very quickly. So for example, you're going to need a webinar registration page, and you have to decide whether you're going to have a video or no video. If you have a video, that's one more thing you're going to have to create. It's another task. So you're going to have a webinar registration page. You're going to have to decide whether you have a video or not. And you're going to have to work on the copy, make it real uber compelling. And then you're going to have a webinar confirmation page. So the confirmation page just gives them the next steps, tells them to save the date, all those wonderful things. So that helps them be able to be ready to attend the webinar. Then you're going to have also pre-webinar registration follow-up emails. So these are for people that registered and said, yes, I want to attend the webinar, but are still waiting to attend the live webinar. What happens in between? You're going to have some emails to keep them excited, to keep them engaged, to let them know that it's coming. Keep it, so that they don't forget about it. So you want to create some emails for that. And then you're going to have, of course, the webinar slide deck. Some people feel really comfortable creating slide decks because they don't have to do it in front of a live audience and they can just kind of work behind the scenes, and they like the graphics and they like doing that kind of stuff. You can always use ChatGPT to take your content that you're going to have and help you structure it. So you want to have a great, title page, and then you want to have, some things of what they're going to discover, and then some key takeaways, and then transition into your offer. Most people kind of understand what webinar structure is like because they've attended webinars, right? So you're going to create your webinar slide deck, and then you're going to consider whether you're going to want to have a webinar handbook. Do you want one or not? Will it help people stay engaged if they see blank lines that they have to listen and fill out? So that's up to you if you want to have a handbook. Plus, the handbook is a great resource for them to keep. Make sure you brand it with your brand logo and email or URL so that they can be sure to access the product. So whether you have a handbook is up to you. Are you going to have a webinar state of the end bonus gift? That's another thing to consider. What would that be? Another thing on the checklist, right? Then when it comes to promotion, you want to be able to have emails. Now, I'll tell you honestly, the biggest part of creating the webinar is not even when you go live. It's all the emails. Webinars are one of the lead generation tools that requires so many emails. So if you don't like writing emails, webinars are probably not for you. Maybe you love public speaking, but you hate creating emails. You need a lot of emails. So you're going to need an email for your email list to invite them to it. And that's going to be a campaign, like a sales campaign that you create, inviting them all the way up to very, very much last day that they can register for this webinar. So you got to figure out on your calendar when you're going to have these promotion emails to sign up for the webinar. And then you want to make sure that you tag everybody so that when they do sign up, they're not getting those emails, right? So you want to work with your email service provider and figure out how to do that so they only get emails. It's usually like an if then, like if they register, then take this tag off and add this tag. There's ways that you can do that in an email service provider so that the flow is seamless. So if they've registered already, they're no longer getting the promotional emails anymore, and they'll be getting the emails between registration and live event. Are you going to have graphics? You might want to have, square graphics, elongated graphic, maybe horizontal graphics. Consider, do you want a graphic that represents this training, right? With the title and the date. So consider that as well. What are you going to have for graphics? And it's always a good idea to have them in all the different sizes. I primarily am on LinkedIn, so I only have to worry about one size. But if you have something like that, then you can post it on social and other places. And you can even have a pop up on your website if you wanted to. So, promotional graphics, that's another thing to put on the to do if you want to have that. And then the social promotional content. What's the social media content calendar going to look like to promote this? So, are you going to have copy like text, or are you going to have videos? Another thing to consider, right? For promoting it. We don't want to just create the slide deck and the webinar and kind of fall short promoting it. And then you can also consider, do I want it on my website? Like I said before, you can use a pop-up, or you can have a banner at the top of the website promoting it. So are you going to do that? Are you going to run ads? That would be another thing to add on your to-do if you're going to do that as well. And then post-webinar, you've got emails there as well. For everybody that had registered, they're going to get the replay and then a sales campaign, a sales email campaign, if they haven't registered yet for your offer, right? If they haven't bought the offer, you want to try to still convert them. So you send them the replay and then emails to promote the offer. And for the emails, for the rest of your email list who did not register, did not attend the webinar, you might even want to create a promotional campaign for those people. So now we're talking segmenting, right? We're talking about a group that registered, they're going to get promotional campaign. And then we're talking about the group that didn't register, but we're going to create a different campaign. Why is it different? Because they didn't get the privilege of listening to all the great stuff that you included in the webinar. So here's what you can do. You know what to do for the registrants that were there, getting the replay, haven't signed up yet, haven't bought, great email sequence for them. For the other folks that never registered, you still want to send promotional campaigns to them, but it's going to be different. There's a little tip. Take your webinar transcript and pop it into ChatGPT and help you write emails to invite people to your offer. And that will help take some of the load off because you need two different sets of emails. You don't want to send the replay to everybody because they never registered. They didn't want it. So why are you sending it to me? But you do want to announce and let them know. And maybe they just don't like webinars, but maybe they'll read your email and they're going, oh, I want this. So you want to create something different. And maybe it could be a 3-part campaign, or it could be a 5-part campaign. It depends on how you want to do that to announce it and the content that you want to put. Maybe it's the same content that's on the webinar, but you shorten it and create like a 5 or 7-part email sequence to see if they would like to join your offer, whatever that offer is. So there's a lot of emails. So beyond that, you have abandoned cart emails too. If you really want to get granular and take care of every touch point, if they've gone to the cart and they have not completed, you can do abandoned cart emails as well. There's a lot of webinar tools that help you with all this stuff, so you don't have to figure it out. And we could talk about that in 2 weeks, talk about some of the tools that you can use. But in any event, best practices for engagement. This is the fun part. When you create the webinar, don't just create a training, a teaching, a class. This is an event. Treat it like an event, because an event is exciting. Maybe have some giveaways, maybe raffle off something fun, bribe them to come and show up live. Tell them that they're going to get something awesome when they attend live. And then once they attend live, tell them they're going to get something even better if they stay to the end. So you incentivize it, you gamify it, and you keep the energy high for those people that are there ready to go to sleep, right? You want to keep them engaged. So you encourage live interaction. Now, this is where you can find out about your market, right? You can have polls, you can have questions, you can see what questions they have and see where they're at. What's in their headspace, right? What are they thinking? And this helps you for future promotions as well. And it helps to keep that engagement going. And then you can consider also, if you're a little hesitant of talking head or just slide deck, I'm a disruptor, so I like trying different things. But you can do interview style webinar where someone is interviewing you and you're providing the content through the answers that you give. It's very different. It's not slide after slide after slide, and it's not talking head, talking head. It's an interaction that you're having, and you're welcoming the audience, and you're being interviewed like a little TV show interview, and you're explaining the value of whatever that topic is. That's another way to do it. I did this with one of the webinars with a colleague, and we did one together that way. And I thought it worked out really well. I thought it was very different and fun because I was asking all the questions that I knew my audience would be asking, and then he was giving the answers to it. So I think it worked out really well. So that's one way that you can do it. Also, if you don't want to do slide deck, so you can incentivize every part of it, create an event, right, and make it fun, and then the event also kind of helps with the social media part too. When you make it fun, that it's an event too. But you always want to create urgency to register early. Maybe some of the bonuses will go away if they don't register by a certain date. You want to create urgency to register, urgency to take advantage of the opportunity in the webinar. What's going to happen if they don't register during the webinar? Is there something that they're going to miss out on? Maybe they can register later, but they're not going to get the special bonus that's a webinar bonus. So urgency, and then urgency in your emails to register by a certain date because the cart closes, the opportunity closes. So you want to create urgency, urgency, urgency all the way through. So that's very helpful for engagement. Okay, how to avoid mistakes. We're at the bottom of the hour, so I'm going to finish this off really quick. This is the last point I want to make. Overloading content. Again, you're providing a slice, not an entire blueprint. I'm going to have like 3 takeaways. This is the one thing, the common mistake of webinars. I've been on webinars that were over 4 hours. It was overkill. It was too much. No, don't. I tuned out. I started getting mad, thinking, why is this thing so long? So don't make it overkill. I like keeping my webinars short and no more than an hour. That includes Q&A, the promotion, everything. So I make sure that I teach for about maybe 40 minutes. 40 minutes gives me a little flexibility depending on questions, Q&A. And then, be able to promote the content, promote the offer, and then take Q&A questions, and then have a countdown timer. We could talk about countdown timers. They have them for the actual webinar that you can put on it for the slide deck, or you can have countdown timers in your email. We could talk about the tech stuff in 2 weeks if you like, and we can cover that. The other thing that is a common mistake is skipping rehearsals. It's always a good idea to test everything and to do a run through to make sure the flow and the transition's good. So you're not, what's coming up next? Oh yeah, here. You want to make sure that you're comfortable with it enough that you anticipate what's coming. If you use PowerPoint, it's great because it allows you to see it very easily, your notes, and keep it simple, the notes, not in blocks of paragraph, just some bullets so that it just triggers your memory and you're off and running. Don't just read it verbatim because that will get boring unless you're really good at it. You could put a lot of personality when you're reading it so it doesn't even seem like you're reading it. I can't do that. That's why I'm not very good with teleprompters, but maybe you are. So that might work for you. So don't skip the rehearsals. If you want, see if there's a buddy that will help you on the back end, monitor the chat and the questions and be kind of a moderator. And then you do it for them so that you don't have to invest in an assistant to help you. You just find somebody that can support you on your webinar and help you with all the tech stuff, and then you support them. That's one way to do it. And then the last one of a common mistake, lack of post-webinar follow-up. Don't drop the ball. Make sure that when you have a webinar and it's done, I know you're going to feel relieved and tired after 3 months of preparing for this, but you're not done yet. Make sure you do those follow-up emails to the people that didn't register, to the people that did register. Just make sure you do all those follow-ups and give incentive or give urgency for them to take you up on your offer. So work on those. So the biggest challenge with a webinar, I think, it's all the emails. It's tons of emails, lots and lots of emails. So just give yourself enough time. If you give yourself enough time, you're going to be calm. You're going to think things through. Nothing's going to pop up at the last minute. You're going to have a great webinar because you're giving yourself a month to promote it. And it's not about the size of attendees, it's about having the right audience attend. And don't forget to personally invite people to your webinar. That goes a long way. When you personally invite people to a webinar, they like a personal invitation. So that's a good way to promote it as well. So that's what I have for you today. Maybe webinar is what you want to do next year. Maybe that's what you'll do. And once you get it down, tweak it a little bit, you can reuse it. It's like rinse and repeat. You could have a webinar. You don't even have to, you could have it every quarter, but most of the heavy lifting is done. Most of the work is done. You might tweak things here and there, but it's done. So why not do it again every quarter to promote your product or your service? So anyway, hope that was helpful. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me in the community and be looking out for some updates about the community. Lots of good stuff coming. So I'm excited. So hopefully you'll be excited too. And we'll kick off the new year with a brand new platform with some added features in it and added content to help you execute on your goals. So take care and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.